If you want that real core talent and some real coaches, just come to Rock Hill.
Rock Hill, South Carolina, now known as Football City, USA, is a southern textile town turned football factory.
The city of Rock Hill, per capita, has more players in the NFL than any other city.
A claim which, according to WRHI sportscaster Chris Miller, is one that no other city in America can hold on to. Not Dallas, not Miami, not New York, but Rock Hill.
You can go to places like LA and New York and areas like that, maybe have 6, 7 total players, but they have millions and millions and millions of residents. The city of Rock Hill has just as many NFL players with 70,000 people.
According to the online publication The Sporting News, Rock Hill produces one NFL player per 8,512 people, more than 30 in total over the years dating back to 1930.
When you have a city that has 2 schools and now has 3 schools to have this much success, that really is surprising.
Many know Gene Knight as the voice of the Rock Hill Bearcats.
When you look at cities the size of Greenville, Columbia, Spartanburg, you think the talent is somewhat diluted, the talent pool itself. But here, it's just a big pool, guys, I want to tell you.
But what many don't know is that Gene Knight was behind the call from the booth that stamped Rock Hill with what he calls a nickname, that nickname being Football City, USA.
In 2008, you had Northwestern and South Point on the verge of playing each other for a state championship. And you had Rock Hill High 1 game away from playing for a state championship. And Barry Byers and I used to eat a couple of times a week, and he and I were discussing it. And he was trying to do a moniker for Rock Hill. And so we discussed Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is called Titletown. And somehow or another we talked about Football Town, but that became sort of like, that's always a colloquial, it's always this place is a football town. So I just happened to look at him and I said, well, you know, Rock Hill used to be an All-American city. It was labeled an All-American city. And we both looked at each other and said, Football City, and I said USA. And so Barry printed it, and guys, myself and all the guys on the OTS Sports Network started saying it.
Football City, USA, a name that has stuck with the people here in this town, has now turned Friday Night Lights into somewhat of a ritual.
I can remember many days that everybody would line up for the handshaking in. Even some of the fans would come just to shake some of those players' hands.
Former South Point head coach Bobby Carroll, who is now at the helm for the York Cougars, has been a coaching staple here in the area for more than 20 years.
If you play quarterback in the city of Rock Hill, you want to be the best quarterback in Rock Hill. If you play defensive back, the same thing. If you're a defensive lineman, and you want to follow the traditions, you know, of the Gilmores and the Hollemans and the Clowneys and, you know, the Simpsons and the Chris Hopes and the Derrick Rosses and Benjamin Watsons and Jonathan Joseph, and the list goes on. You know, I don't know them all, but you want to be that next guy, and that's what this game's really all about, you know, having role models and having people to look up to and having dreams.
One of those kids with a similar dream, which Carroll spoke about, was Josh Davis. Now 10 years removed from the NFL, he looks back on what Football City, USA truly is.
What's so special about it is, you know, you got a small town like Rock Hill and all these small towns surrounding it, producing all these high, you know, prospects.
Davis, a wide receiver, played his high school football in York, but he says he landed in the NFL thanks to the competition in Rock Hill.
It was hard to get exposure back then. So the way I used to look at it is when I played ball, I looked at it as, you know, okay, I'm playing against this guy at this big time school, so I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna take his shine.
Gaining exposure on the field is one thing, but others say the classroom is where the climb to the top of the football mountains began for Rock Hill.
What this town does is they emphasize their young people going to high school and doing well. And they emphasize the importance of an education. Because, you know, as you know, the current rule is 2.3 or take a knee. And we work hard at that like all other high schools do. But one thing that Rock Hill shares, I believe, in my mind, is an emphasis on the young people of this town participating at their local high school and doing well academically.
Coach David Pierce believes the name Football City, USA is deserved, but it could easily be washed away.
We're more than a t-shirt, we're more than a logo, and you can take all this and you can put it in a nice little dossier, and you can hand it to your opponent at the coin flip and get 0 points for it.
In 2014, Jadeveon Clowney was drafted as the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. The year before that, Northwestern's Cordero Patterson went 29th overall to the Minnesota Vikings. And then in 2012, Stephon Gilmore heard his name called to the Buffalo Bills at 10th overall. But those guys aren't alone, as just in this century alone, Rock Hill has seen 11 of its own drafted into the NFL.
We're very fortunate that those guys come back, that they come back to Rock Hill and they give back to the community. Through their camps, through donations that they give, through mentoring players. We have several NFL guys that come back and coach on high school staffs, and when their careers are over, and that experience and that that level of expertise that they can bring to the table is invaluable for our kids, and for them to get an insight into what the next level looks like, and the next level after that is something that's very, very special. And I think it sets the expectation of kids to, well, if he can make it, I can make it.
Making it to the next level is one thing kids dream about as they watch their idols on TV each and every Sunday. But one person that laid the foundation for our youth is longtime Northwestern head coach Jimmy Wallace.
Jim Ringer and Jimmy Wallace did a lot for this city back in the 80s when they both were head coaches here, and they went to the Little League staffs and said, hey, we need to develop this pipeline. And that had a lot to do with what you're talking about today.
About 70% of our kids are growing up today without a father in the home, and that's serious. So somebody they need to be attached, engaged, connected to, bonded with, and no better deal than athletics, and of course, football.
Wallace, who coached at various schools in the Tri-County and Rock Hill for over 40 years, is the man that many say the game of football in this town is accredited to.
I'd say it's genetics. I think you have a great athlete and a developmental program. I mean, if the talent pool's down, you can have the greatest developmental program in the world, and you can be good, but it'd be hard to be great. But I think we had both.
Genetics, parenting, and developmental programs are what sets Rock Hill and Football City USA in a class of its own.
I think you got to look at the parents and the guardians, because those are the people who get these young men to and from their games, to and from practices, and keep those meals warm on nights when things run a little bit late. That's the backbone of Football City USA.
And after all of this, it is safe to say the late Barry Byers came up with a deserving title for Rock Hill, that southern town turned football factory.
Does Rock Hill deserve that title? The stats that you're given, I don't see why not. And I couldn't see, like I said, there's a lot of other cities. Boston would be pretty good since they have the Patriots. That's kind of a football mecca. But at the same time, it's Boston. This is Rock Hill. So Football City USA definitely depicts a lot of what we have going on here.
Football City USA, a land of its own. In Rock Hill, Michael Lofredo, CN2 Sports.